Now let's apply the power rule in some examples. So what if we are given g of x equals x raised to 6, and we are asked to find the derivative of this function. As you can see, this is a power function because we have a variable and an exponent. That means we can make use of the power rule. So paano nga ulit? Ibababa lang yung exponent, tapos copy the variable, subtract 1 from the exponent. So ibig sabihin, this one is just g prime of x. Ibig sabihin, derivative of g of x is equal to, so ibaba ang exponent, drop the exponent, copy the base, subtract 1 from the exponent, so 6 minus 1. So we will have g prime of x, or the derivative of g of x when simplified, is equal to 6x raised to 5. And that is our final answer. It's quite easy, right? Now let's try another example. So we have j of x is equal to 1 over x cubed. Before we could actually solve for this, let's first recall laws of exponents. So kapag meron tayong 1 over x raised to a, okay, this can actually be expressed into a term na hindi naka-fraction. So how do we do that? Let's just get the reciprocal of this. So that is x raised to negative a. And kapag naman meron tayong x raised to a, tapos kukunin natin yung reciprocal niya, you can just make it 1 over x raised to negative a. So we will make use of this law of exponent to solve for the derivative of j of x. So gawin natin yan. Si j of x can actually be expressed as x raised to negative 3. Which means that it's actually a power function. And since it's a power function, ibig sabihin we could make use of the power rule to solve for its derivative. So the derivative of j of x is equal to, gamitin lang natin yung power rule, drop the exponent, so negative 3, copy the base, which is x, subtract 1 from the exponent. And then from there, we could actually solve for the derivative. So simplify lang natin. We will have negative 3x raised to negative 3 minus 1, that will give us negative 4. So pwedeng ganito yun na yung inyong final answer, or if you want to put it back to its original form, pwede rin natin siyang gawing j prime of x, or the derivative of j of x is equal to, so si negative 3, iwan natin sa taas, x raised to negative 4, para maging positive siya, lagay na lang sa baba. So it could either be negative 3x raised to negative 4 or negative 3 over x raised to 4. Any of these two is considered the correct answer. Okay? So medyo nag-iba na siya ng konti. Now let's try another one. So subukan natin. What if we are given h of x is equal to x? Could we actually make use of the power rule for this? Wala naman siyang exponent. Wala nga ba? Okay, tingnan natin. When we say x, it's actually the same as x raised to 1. So kapag walang exponent si x, automatically ang exponent niya ay 1. So since meron na siyang exponent, which is a positive number, that means we could actually make use of the power rule. So solve natin yung derivative of x using the power rule. So h prime of x is equal to, so drop the exponent, which is 1, copy the base, subtract 1 from the exponent. So simplify natin. We will have h prime of x equals 1 times x raised to 0. Now, ano nga ba ang x raised to 0? So, recall ulit tayo. Recall. Laws of exponents ulit. Any number raised to 0 except if that number is 0 is always equal to 1. So, whether it's a negative or a positive number, basta raised to 0, that's always equal to 1. Except na lang kung 0 raised to 0. That's not equal to 1. So, dahil alam na natin na x raised to 0 is equal to 1, therefore, we could simplify this further. Magiging h prime of x is equal to 1 times x raised to 0 is 1. So, just simplify it. H prime of x is equal to 1. Ibig sabihin, the derivative of h of x equals x is equal to 1. So, pag may nakita kayong variable na x, tas kukunin niyo yung derivative of x is just always equal to 1. Please always remember that because that's quite useful when we find the derivative of different types of functions. Okay. So ngayon, subukan naman natin ang another example. Let's try, so number 4. Let's try p of x equals the cube root of x squared. This looks quite complicated, pero actually, madali lang to. So, this one, for us to solve for this, recall muna natin. Recall. Kung mapapansin nyo, kanina pa tayo recall ng mga laws of exponents because this is the power rule, it deals with exponents. So, let's recall about radicals. The nth root of a raised to b. This can actually be expressed as a raised to b over n. So, b over n. So, ibig sabihin, the cube root of x squared is just the same as x raised to 2/3. Which means that we could still apply the power rule. So, power rule ulit. Let's get the derivative of p of x. So, power rule, drop the exponent. Our exponent is 2/3. So, copy the base, which is a, subtract 1 from the exponent. So, 2/3 minus 1. So, dapat marunong tayong mag-subtract ng fractions ulit. So, the derivative of p of x is equal to 2/3 times a raised to, so 2/3 minus 1 is actually equal to 1/3. Or, you could rewrite this as the derivative of p of x is equal to 2/3 times the cube root of a. Bakit a na lang? Kasi a raised to 1 is also the same as a. So, any of the two could be considered as the final answer. So, that's all for the examples for the power rule. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me via Neo, and please click on the next video for the next differentiation rule.